Here we are at the PHP tutorial or PHP manual at php.net, and this section, you can see there's a little table of contents over here on the left, and where we are is in this what do I need? What do I need to use PHP? And this explains that if you want to use PHP, you have to have a server that has support for PHP, a PHP processor, and that all the files ending in PHP, in .php, are handled by the PHP processor. Again, this is more explanation of what it means that PHP is server-side. It has to be processed on the web server. You can't really make, well, there are ways. You can have something called a MAMP stack, which imitates a server, turns your desktop computer kind of into a server, and you could play around with PHP using that. Some of the other parts of this PHP tutorial, the second part is your first PHP-enabled page, which, following in the traditions of coding, creates a PHP page that says "Hello World," and we'll look at that in just a minute. Sort of to describe some of the things that PHP can do, if you start browsing around through this table of contents, you can see here it says something useful, and this is talking about a PHP variable called server. You can see in the note that $_server is a PHP variable, and this is something that you could use as a website administrator to find out all the browsers that people use to access your website. So this could be very useful to you as the manager of a website, and you can see here's sample output from the script, but it is something that could be useful for you as a website administrator, and it goes on to explain a little more about how to make it work and how to collect this information. Another thing is that PHP can process HTML forms, and so I could actually, I don't do this, but because I subscribe to a hosting service that has PHP activated on the host, rather than using Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or something like that, I could write a simple HTML form just using the HTML code and put that on my server, and the PHP would process it. There are some caveats. If you look down here in the user comments, it's pointing out that if you use this method, it's not very secure. So you probably wouldn't want to have people doing something like sending you credit card numbers using a simple HTML form and PHP. You need better security if that's what you're going to do. There are some other explanations in this simple tutorial, using old code with new versions of PHP, what's next. But again, I recommend this PHP manual to you to find out more about PHP, and this is listed in the course readings. As I mentioned, what I wanted to do was show you the Hello World example, and I gave you a quick flash of some of the underlying code, but what we're looking at here is my FTP program, which is called Transmit. We're connected to my server called Bluehost. Here on the left, you can see this is my desktop. We're back in that 861 Fall 2012 folder, the CSS demo. And here's that first PHP file, hello PHP. And what I've done is I've uploaded it here. Here it is sitting on my Bluehost server. And if we go to a web browser and we open that file in a web browser, here's the PHP test. You can see it's at debslunch.com/hello-php. If we look at my files here, you can see this is my public HTML directory, and here's hello PHP sitting on the server. And this is what it looks like if we open hello PHP in a web browser, and it looks like HTML. And if we look at the source, it still looks like HTML. The only thing that's PHP is the file extension, and you can see it's got an ordinary HTML head. It's got an internal style sheet that's making this text be green and capitals, and inside dotted border in a little gray box. So what happens if we open up that PHP file, hello PHP, locally here on my server, here on my desktop computer? And here's the file, like I said, in my 861 folder. And if we open it up locally, what happens is we don't see the HTML version, we just see code. And this is because there's no PHP processor on my desktop computer to process the PHP and turn it into something that can be displayed like a website. And one thing that you see that's kind of interesting is this is the actual PHP. This is the PHP coding. It's a PHP command called echo that's making the text hello world come out inside of a span on this HTML page. And like I said, the other point is if we look at the code that's behind this, if we look at the code, it's HTML. We don't see the PHP. The only PHP is the file extension, because there's a PHP processor on my server that's turning the PHP into HTML, and we don't see this single line of PHP code that's actually in that file. So that's a few tips and demos on PHP. There's a lot more to explore, and the php.net tutorial is probably the best place to at least get started.